So there's basically 4 steps to thinking like a consultant, and this is, again, high level. Thinking like a consultant so that when you get anything comes to you in your organization and you feel like I need to address it, this is the steps that we think through. So like if a client calls me and says, you know, hey, we need your services, then my first questions are, okay, so tell me what's going on, and then we start down the thinking path. They're sharing with me what's going on, and then I'm responding to that and asking a lot of questions so that I can make decisions to move forward in how we might perform our investigation, okay? So the number 1 step is that you have to identify risk, opportunities, and best practices in whatever you're looking at, right? When we are performing reviews, basically I would define for you a risk is something that, in my mind anyway, that is against regulatory guidance, or it might be something that impacts payment, and so from that perspective, that's going to be my high items that I'm looking for. That is the risk, okay? Risk of really getting in trouble with my payments or doing something against regulatory guidance. And then opportunities for me. Now, risk can be a part of opportunities, but opportunities for me, they could include things that are not necessarily risk, like ineffective processes, or, you know, maybe lack of knowledge by an employee, or you know, things that sway against the best practice that could cause problems in reimbursement, but they may not be doing, or you may not be able to quantify, and it may not go against a rule or a regulation. So that's going to be my risk and opportunities. Now I'm going to look for both of those as I'm doing an investigation. Now, to identify these, you say, how do you, you know, figure out what your risk and opportunities are? Well, you're in your own organization, so you already probably have a pretty good clue about some risk and opportunities that exist. You know, one of the things that I see commonly is documentation opportunities. So as we go in and we might be doing a compliance review, or we might be doing, you know, I can't even think, there's so many different types of reviews. We might be doing, let's see, a chart to bill, a billing review where we're looking to see that billing was appropriate. You can't actually do that effectively, in my opinion, without looking at the whole process that got to that answer. And so that's kind of what we do, all right? I mean, that's not kind of, it is what we do, all right? So if you are new to your organization and you absolutely don't know what the issues are, in order to do that, I would say, you know, first of all, you got to start paying attention to what's going on in the day-to-day, and paying attention to what others are saying in their job function, as to what are things that hinder the process or hinder the overall claims process, or even maybe in just their department. You can ask questions. The other thing you can do is, if you want to, you know, dig in really quick, is go, okay, you know, I've got this type of service or that type of service, and I really want to figure out if we're doing it right. So you do a little internal audit. And then in that internal audit, usually things start to fall out that, hey, we need to address this and we need to address that. But sometimes it really doesn't take that audit, because you already have folks in your organization who are saying, wait a minute, we need to take care of this. Or you might just recognize that you are doing this same process over and over and over, day in and day out, and it's taken 5 extra steps. In your mind, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this really should be a quick fix, and I shouldn't have to do this every time in that way. And with that, you then start figuring out, you know, okay, how can we correct the process? And you don't just go off and do it on your own. You, of course, would naturally need to talk to those people in your organization's who are responsible or have any part in what you are doing. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain without an example, but let's say, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but let's say you have a process that when you are a coder or you're a biller, let's say that, and you start adding modifiers to the claim, and in your organization the rule says you don't add modifiers, the coders add modifiers, and then you are adding them, and it really is affecting not only your role, because you're just doing what you think you need to do to get the bill out and get it paid, but you might not have seen the documentation to make sure that the modifier was appropriate, and your organizational rule said, hey, you got to get this from the coder, so you should have, sent it back. So it's affecting both the coding, it's affecting the billing, and it's affecting the revenue cycle. So that piece is just a process opportunity that I see sometimes, and I just wanted to just kind of share with you an example of that. So basically, you say, how do we do an audit? Basically, the easiest way to do an audit is whatever your provider type, whatever type of service you're looking at, is take a billed claim or a group of billed claims and work backwards from that claim and figure out if everything is billed and documented consistently with that bill, okay? Or, the only other thing to do, like we said, is really look for those internal complaints to start an investigation. This is kind of what a compliance officer does as well. They're looking to see, okay, or listening to the organization to see, hey, let's get the pulse here and see if there's anything going, that we need to address. So I also, in my first step, I included the fact that you need to identify best practices. And the reason you need to identify best practices, because this is huge, all right? The reason you need to identify best practices is because, number one, you don't want to leave, particularly if it has to do with physicians and their documentation, right? You don't want to come back to those physicians and say, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. Does anybody have kids out there? Because you're going to tell your kids, you're doing this wrong, and they're going to stop listening, right? You got to encourage them a little bit. You got to show them, and how many times have you heard physicians say, just tell me what to say? Well, do that, So, but first, you have to identify their best practices and really build them up. So whatever the process is, those in the process, you look at what are their best practices and build them up in that, so that then when you address the issues, then you can do it from a balanced place where you're both working together. You're not attacking, which is what a good consultant does, and you're not, a bad consultant would be attacking, and that would be horrible, okay? It wouldn't get you the best results, right? So, and the other thing is this makes whoever the person is, whether it's physicians or anyone else, want to do better. You get buy-in from them. So, like I said, it gives you the best possible solution. So the second step is to quantify your exposure of the identified issue or issues. Now, if you're doing this yourself, there are quite a few considerations that you have to think about. We live in a very regulated world, right? It's very regulatory, and there's some things that we have to be aware of. And sometimes in our own organizations, when we're maybe not working with a consultant, we're trying to have that consultant headset, we start down the path of identifying issues, and then we just move forward, and we might not do that in the right way, and it might cause additional risk and exposure for the organization. So let me tell you a story. I was working with a physician. Actually, I was doing an education session for a large group of physician practices, and the office manager had, this was a specific specialty, and she heard something that I said in the conference and realized, oh my goodness, we're doing this wrong in our organization. And she went back to her provider, and she didn't talk to anyone in the provider office. She went back, she analyzed it a little bit, and then she instantly wrote a letter to CMS and said, hey, ding, 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 we're doing this wrong, and we've been doing it wrong forever, and da-da-da-da-da. And does anybody go, oh my goodness, right? Because that opened up additional risk for her organization. She did not go through proper channels of going through the compliance track, okay, going to the compliance officer, and even if she was the compliance officer, she needed a little more training, right? You should not, when it's something that is repeatedly done over and over, and so a systemic issue, and it's causing you to be overpaid or underpaid by large dollars. In this case, it was overpaid. You don't just automatically go out and return that. You need to walk through a process and investigate and quantify to make sure that you're on your, got your ducks in a row. The other thing you need to do in this situation is you would need to include an attorney, because that you identify the issue with the attorney. The attorney typically hires a consultant, and then the consultant, would audit, review, determine what the problems are, determine if there's validity to the problems, and then report back to the attorney, discuss it with the organization, and then there would be a, kind of like I guess, meetings, lots of meetings to discuss what do we do about this situation, and then once it's quantified and it's validated, then the attorney makes a recommendation about how to move forward. With CMS, we only have so many days to return once it's validated or quantified and validated, or validated and quantified. I guess it'd be in that order. So with that said, you don't want to just jump off the gun and do that. So you want to just go through proper channels in your organization, and not just jump off the bandwagon with it. And the attorneys are very well versed, healthcare attorneys specifically are very well versed on, when you do a repayment, and how to handle those repayments. So that's as number two, quantifying. Anytime a client calls me, and like I said earlier, they start to say, I've got an issue, then I start asking questions. How long do you think you've had this issue? What is this issue about? And that kind of helps me determine if I need to recommend we need to have an attorney involved, because when you get the attorney involved, you've got that attorney-client privilege, because everything is done through the attorney. The consultant is hired through the attorney, the review is done through the attorney, and all of that makes it very clear that we have validated our issue and we're taking steps to correct it, and then we create the action plan basically to make it work. Let's see if there's anything else I need to tell you about that, because I'm trying to think if there was with the attorney part. I guess that's just what I want to make sure you are very aware that if the situation arises, you don't just jump off and run with it, because I've seen that happen way too many times. Okay, so the next thing you do is you've identified the issues. You've started down the road of quantification, but maybe you've only quantified what, the limited amount. You've not quantified the whole picture. So as you're quantifying, actually it kind of goes hand in hand. You're identifying the root causes of those issues. Now, sometimes this gets tricky, because if you're not familiar with the revenue cycle or the details of the revenue cycle, you could crash and burn here. Right? I don't know. It's all too often I've seen individuals in the organization find an issue and then go, okay, well, if we just do this or this or this in my department, that's going to correct the problem. But what you need to do is make sure that you know everyone that issue touches and kind of bring them to the table and, go, okay, this is what we feel is the root cause. Let's kind of hash it out. And if you don't know what the root cause, bringing them to the table can identify the root cause. That's huge. Each part of the revenue cycle includes multiple processes and multiple people usually. And if you don't give them an opportunity to go, okay, if we make this change, how is this going to affect my department? Then that's terrible. And what happens is it causes finger pointing within the organization, and it causes discord, and it causes, you know, just bad feelings all the way around. It puts a wedge, okay? So I'm going to say, here, let's use a medical term here. I'm going to say we need to do a wedgectomy, right? If you are thinking like a consultant, your thoughts are, we have to figure out that we've got the issue. We need to figure out the issue. We need to figure out the root cause. We need to figure out how much the financial exposure is, and we need to pull people and processes together. That's what a good consultant would do. We need to pull them together to create or figure out where things are going to be impacted, to create an action plan and move forward. And what we want to do is evaluate the process from admission to discharge and all the way through the coding and billing process. So inefficiencies and problems, they can be present any step of the way. And if you are evaluating them and assessing them, then, you know, that's huge, okay? So, and that leads us in to the fourth step. The fourth step is really taking action on your findings. So every single project that we go into, this is exactly what we do, all right? And if you want to know more about the details, remember, I'll tell you about that in just a second. But this includes, like I said, involving every single person or department that could be involved. So in your action plan, you want to have that plan, and you can do something. You can create a Word document action plan. You can create an Excel document action plan. I mean, there's a number of different types of action plans and tools that you can use to create an action plan. But on this action plan, you want to identify the issue. You want to identify the root cause. You want to identify the departments involved, the person responsible to work on that action plan, and the deadline date. So if you don't put a date on it, you know how we are. We're doing the day to day, and it'll sit over here on our desk, and we won't address it, right? This is kind of like a checks and balance for us. It's like, you know, if I want to lose weight or something, I put a date on it so that I can go, okay, by, you know, a month from now, I want to lose however much weight, and then I work towards my goal. So it's a goal. It's the same headset, okay? Each finding should be addressed in your action plan, but remember, you should not automatically make changes until you understand how each department or person that this issue touches. And if you don't know, if you're not familiar with the revenue cycle, you're going to have to do a little more investigation. You're going to have to, you know, interview people in your organization. You're going to have to, you know, and talk to people from the executive level, maybe all the way down to, you know, all the levels, whatever it goes through, the process goes through to get to the end result that you ended with. So it is all about investigation. You gotta come out and be like Sherlock Holmes here, okay? So many times, like I said, I've seen issues identified and corrections made, and nobody knows how it's affecting the other department or entity, and then when I correct it from my perspective, it may cause hiccups later on and cause another problem. And that, you know, I'm sure you're all going, oh yeah, I've seen that happen in my organization, right? And so basically that could cause a catastrophe, right? And doing it properly makes your result and your, it makes you identify your result easily. It makes you get buy-in on correcting the root cause of the problem. And when it's corrected, that will never happen again in the same way or due to the same root cause. So that's the win. And you're like, that's so awesome, right? So if you enjoy digging into this kind of stuff, you might be just really a great part of our group, the AQIQ Revenue Warriors. So I hope that that was beneficial to you. Just those 4 things. If you take those 4 steps and look at any issue in your organization, then that's going to put you in that healthcare consultant headset, and you can attack any issue, right? As long as you're bringing in buy-in from the community of folks who are participating in that particular issue, okay? So let me tell you now, just take a few minutes to tell you about our opportunity as AQIQ Revenue Warriors. We opened this on Friday, and today at 5 p.m. it closes. We really want you guys there. We need your expertise. We want you to be a part of this group. We are better together. So having a group of like-minded individuals come together and be able to resolve issues, talk about what the processes are in their organization. We're gonna not go against HIPAA though here, but having that support. We don't always get support in our organizations, or we don't get answers to our questions, but having the ability to get coaching, some one-on-one coaching that leads you down the path to find the answer. We're not going to always tell you the answer. We're going to help you find the answer, because that's what it takes to think like a consultant and to be able to resolve those issues. And not only find the answer, but find that vetted answer, that accurate answer. The one that is not just on a board somewhere that somebody gave their opinion, but the one that is going to not harm you later when you implement it, right, or make a decision based on it. So the AQIQ Revenue Warriors, what they get, you're going to go, what do we get as AQIQ Revenue Warriors? Some limited one-on-one coaching, access to the AQIQ articles that we post, and discounts to things in the AQIQ membership if you're not already an AQIQ member also. You get membership in this professional group of like-minded folks in a very supportive community. We are all allies, and we're all got our backs together supporting each other. We're going to have some very quick fire training. This is not the, we're going to sit down for a half an hour and do CEU training. Typically it's going to be short, quick bullets, giving you some video training, usually video training. We're also going to bring in some really cool experts. We're going to have some expert interviews to spark your thinking so that you can learn from their practices. We're going to bring in some attorneys. We're going to discuss our audit findings. We're not going to talk about who our clients are, but we're going to discuss those findings so that you can say, hey, that's happening in my organization. Let me go back and dig into that. And what recommendations we gave. We'll discuss those as well, because we really want to bring you into that headset so that we can be better together. And if you have an issue, you can bring it to the group and get the coaching and get the support from other members of the group. We plan also to really just have parties and support each other and build you up when you have achievements. And we're going to give you some bonuses and some great surprises in the membership. In addition to, we're going to bring in some personal helpers, some lifestyle helpers, I guess I'll say, because in our field, we are sedentary a lot. So even if I'm on a plane flying somewhere and I go to a provider and I'm doing an audit or a training, many times I am sitting on my rear end. And that's not good. That's not healthy. I mean, sitting is like the new smoking, right? And we want all of you to be around for a long time with us. So we're going to give you some cues, and we're going to bring in some experts too, some interviews, do some interviews to, spark your thinking there, to say it's not only about my business life, but it's about being well. We've actually named Rucha on our team to be our wellness chief wellness officer, so she can prod us a little bit to go, hey, are you drinking water today? Hey, tag us if you drank so many glasses of water. I don't know what she's going to come up with, or hey, what are you doing for exercise? What kind of exercise shoes do you wear? And do you stand up every hour? Just a lot of fun stuff she's going to be interjecting. And if you join today by 5, you're going to get a free ergonomic assessment. So you take a picture of yourself at your desk, and that's about a $200 value actually, because we did some checking out there, and it actually goes up. it starts at like 100 and goes up, but what we're offering is about the value of 200. So you're going to get someone to take a picture of you at your workspace, and we're going to have our specialist evaluate it and give you some quick pointers that hopefully would help, in that neck pain, or, just make your day a little bit easier. So you might be saying, okay, Paula, so how much does it cost? Okay, so just to share with you, it's easy for the founding members, and today at 5 is the last chance to become a founding member. It is $240 a year to be a part of this closed membership group. All right, and if you say, well, I want to join, but I really don't want to, I can't pay or don't want to pay the whole year right off the bat. Can I pay monthly? Sure you can. The $240 is over $100 off the normal member rate. And then if you want to pay monthly, it's about $60 off the normal monthly rate. So that's not $240 a month. Oh wow, wouldn't that'd be crazy. No, it's $24.90 a month if you want to do monthly on a recurring charge. So we just really hope you join us, because in addition to being a part of this growing community and the founding members having the ability to help shape the membership for the future Revenue Warriors, your knowledge, expertise, and ideas are so welcome and wanted here. All right, so if you are interested in joining, visit us on our AQIQ website and, click on Revenue Warriors, and we will be excited to welcome you into the group. So that's www.aqiq.com, and don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So thanks so much, guys, and I hope you have gotten something out of our time today, and, let's see you again on another day. Thank you so much. Oh, hey, bye, Trish. I didn't say hi, so bye, Trish.